say sometimes things gotta break for the sunlight to come in, illuminate. God, you made me feel at home in a world I saw through the eyes of a girl. You color every. They say things that go up must come down, but you got me over the ground, taking me in. And when you're talking to me, I feel like we're the only ones, just you and me. The world spins.
Guys, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about the top products that made my breastfeeding journey more successful, and the top products that I think you will need for a successful breastfeeding journey. I know everyone is different, but these are just the top things that helped me and might help you, so stay tuned. I'm gonna go through a few things, but before I do, I want to say that there are two different types of breastfeeding. So there is what we call exclusively breastfeeding, which is when the baby is only taking breast milk, so mom is either latching or pumping. Baby's either only taking breast milk if less than 6 months, then it's just breast milk from mom, like I said, either from the actual breast or pumping or both. And then if the baby's over 6 months, it might be breast milk and solids, but exclusively breastfeeding, like no formula, basically is what it means. And then the combination breastfeeding is what I do. It's what I did both times, but more successful this time, which is when you do mostly give breasts. So I would say it's 90% breasts for me. Everybody's different. 90% breasts and a supplement of formula. So for some people, the supplement might be a little more or a little less, and different people combo feed instead of exclusively breastfeed for different reasons. For me, it's for the fact that I am a low producer. I never really produce enough milk, so I produce a good amount, but never enough to kind of keep up with my kids. Also, for mental health reasons, I think that exclusively breastfeeding for me is a little too much. To be a baby's primary source of food is a little too much, but I do like providing her with breast milk, and I do like the benefits that come from breast milk, both mentally and physically, so for my baby and also for me, and just like the bonding that also comes with it. So that's why I choose to still breastfeed, even though I don't make enough to exclusively breastfeed. Those are the reasons. And I do supplement with formula, and now she's 8 months old, so she also has some solids thrown in there. But I have breastfed her. She's 8 months old, and I have breastfed her from day one, but I always combo fed. With my first daughter, however, I did combo feed, but it was more unsuccessful. I had a lot more complications, and I only could breastfeed her for the first few months of life, and then I had to kind of stop for medical reasons. There was a lot of complications going on, and most of it was because I didn't have proper breastfeeding education. So that's why I'm choosing to make this video. Maybe if you guys are having some difficulties, or a first-time mom trying to figure out what you're going to need for breastfeeding, trying to have a more successful breastfeeding journey, or even if you're a second-time mom, third-time mom, but this is your first time breastfeeding, or you're trying again, every breastfeeding journey is different. So these are some things that may be able to help you out depending on what the issue is. So first things first, you guys know, like, I have a little pile here of stuff. Some stuff I don't have with me, but I might be mentioning, but whatever I can show you, I will. So first things first, I've mentioned this in other videos, is my tried and true Haka. I would definitely get a Haka. I use the Haka as a primary pump, so I have 2 of them, and I use it as a primary pump because I like using a manual pump over a electric. For me, that works better. It's more convenient. It just works better for people who might not produce as much milk. The Haka has a way of making milk flow out easier than electrical pumps, and I produce more on them. So I choose to use my Haka as my primary pump, but you can also use the Haka in different ways. Another reason why I would get a Haka, even if you have an electric pump and that's working for you, is because one thing you can do with the Haka is, let's say baby is latched to the right boob, you can put it on the left breast, and as the baby sucks on the one breast, the milk that you would ordinarily lose from the other breast, the Haka can collect, and you can feed to baby later. So you lose less milk this way, and it also helps on those early days with milk production, because if the baby's suckling one breast and you're hooked up to this one, you're simultaneously telling your body to produce more milk. Breastfeeding is a supply and demand, so anything that's going to boost your body's message of make more milk is going to boost your demand, is going to boost your milk supply. So the Haka is a great way in those early days to boost your milk supply, especially for low suppliers. It's also a great way to have less milk waste if you are a low supplier and you're trying to get every drop. It's also great for, you can use it as a primary pump, as I said. And another trick for the Haka of why I would always have a Haka on hand, even if you don't have those issues, is because one trick I learned is I suffered from clogged ducts with my first daughter a lot. That was one of my complications. And with my second daughter, it's happened once or twice, but I feel like I know more and we've had a more successful breastfeeding journey, and I kind of know what it feels like more as a second time mom. So we've had way less issues, but it's definitely happened to me once or twice. So I was happy I knew this, which is if you have a Haka or any silicone based pump, basically, what you can do if you have a clogged duct or you suspect you have a clogged duct, you feel one starting, you want to stop it, you take the Haka and you just fill it with warm water. Make sure it's not too hot to burn you, but warm enough. And fill it to the baseline of where it would touch your nipple. So if you fill it probably about here, and then you would, the way you latch a Haka is you just bend this back, squeeze this part, and press it to the nipple, and it expands. Now, in order for this to work, the water must actually be touching your nipple. So make sure as you're measuring out the water, you make sure that it's actually touching the nipple. But if you have a clogged duct, fill it up with warm water. And what you do is fill it up with a teaspoon. If it's a small clogged duct, larger clogged duct, tablespoon of, you can do Epsom salt or sea salt. So if you had pregnancy related blood pressure, or you have any type of blood pressure issue, whether in pregnancy or outside of pregnancy or both, don't use Epsom salt because the salt content is way too high and will raise your blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, you can do the sea salt because it won't really raise your blood pressure as much as Epsom salt. I would just be careful to not do it, to not overdo it. But if you have a clogged duct and you do it once or twice just to get rid of it, it won't really affect it. I'm not a doctor, but I've done it, and I also spoke to my doctor about it. So I use sea salt, but you can use Epsom salt or sea salt depending on your health and your needs. So you fill it up with warm water, you put a teaspoon to a tablespoon of the salts that you're going to use. Make sure it's mixed in good, and then you latch your Haka with the water, with the salt water in it. Make sure that the water is at a level where it touches your nipple. And as it's touching your nipple, you're going to see that the salt water draws the milk out, and it's going to draw that clogged duct out. You can actually feel it as it rips out. So let's say you have a clogged duct like here on the breast, you're actually going to feel the tension, the clogged duct come out. And then you're probably going to, if it's a large enough one, you'll see it in the Haka. And then I would latch it on for a pump session, so about 15 minutes, and you should feel the relief of it. If it's a really stubborn or really large clogged duct, you might have to repeat it 2 or 3 times for a few days. But normally, if I catch it on time, just like a small clogged duct that I notice, I'm able to get it after 1 or 2 sessions with the salt water. So that's a great tip, to have a Haka on hand, even if you're not going to use it as a pump or as a supplement to pumping. The other thing I would do, especially if you're going to combo feed like me, is get breastfeeding friendly nipples, breastfeeding friendly bottles. So my daughter now is 8 months old. Like I said, she is still breastfeeding, but she's also combo feeding with a little bit of formula, and she's also eating solids. So now she's used to the more of the combo feed situation. She knows that she does breast first, then food, then bottle, or in the nighttime, breast, then bottle. But so now she pretty much takes any bottle, and she still takes the breast. And she's 8 months old, so she doesn't really have nipple confusion. She's kind of used to the different things, a spoon, a boob, a bottle, whichever. But in those early days, babies can definitely get confused. So what I would do is get breastfeeding friendly bottles if you're going to pump and put into a bottle, or if you're going to combo feed. Either way, if your baby's going to be introduced to a bottle early on for any reason, like you're going back to work, you're combo feeding, you're doing formula and breast milk, or you're just not going to be around the baby for a few hours for any reason, and you're going to introduce a bottle, I would do breastfeeding friendly. So these are the ones we got when she was a baby. Like I said, she uses more bigger bottles now because she's 8 months, but these were the ones we got when she was a baby and she was struggling with going from the nipple to the bottle when she was combo feeding, because she's been combo feeding from day 1. So she did eventually get used to it, and we switched back to the Advent because those are my favorite. Those are breastfeeding friendly, but these are breastfeeding friendly for early starters. So these are the Lansolin, and you can see that it's kind of like shaped like a breast. And the way the baby has to open their mouth to suck these is more like a real nipple, if you can see. I don't know if you can tell. But I would definitely look into different breastfeeding bottles. A lot of companies have them. Research the one that you think is going to work best for your family, but I would definitely get breastfeeding friendly bottles. Babe! For our first daughter, we introduced pacifiers after the breastfeeding stopped, only because I was told that if you stop breastfeeding early, which I had to for medical reasons with my first, you should introduce a pacifier, because when you're breastfeeding, it reduces the likelihood of SIDS, and if you're not going to breastfeed, a pacifier is a good substitute to that. So with my second daughter, we haven't introduced a pacifier because we are still breastfeeding, and so it is, still standard safe. So if you don't have to introduce a pacifier for any reason, and if you're still breastfeeding, I'm not going to say don't introduce a pacifier, but that was our choice to just choose that if we're breastfeeding, we feel comfortable not introducing a pacifier and kind of using me as a pacifier. So she does breastfeed on me, and then sometimes she just latches for comfort. So if you want to be the comfort and you're comfortable with that, then that's a great option. If you do want to introduce a pacifier though, and you are breastfeeding, you want to introduce a pacifier as a secondary comfort or for sleep or whatever, there are also breastfeeding friendly pacifiers. I will link my favorites in the bio. I don't have any because we got rid of all our pacifiers when our oldest daughter, when we had to give it up, and we didn't introduce one to the new baby. So we don't have any in the house for me to show you the difference, but I will link my favorites and you can research it. But there are a lot of breastfeeding friendly pacifiers nowadays that stop with nipple confusion. Another one is, if you're going to be breastfeeding, you have to take care of your nipples, because taking care of your nipples is going to help with baby's latch. Because if your nipples start getting chapped or damaged, baby's going to have a worse latch, and you're going to be in pain, and you can get infections. So this is the best nipple, like a nipple, what is it called? Like a nipple cream that I found. This is the one I love. The Frida Mama No Mess Nipple Balm. It's all natural. It doesn't have fragrance. It's really good. It works really fast, and it is edible for babies, so you don't have to wash it off. When you put it on, the baby can literally latch right on afterwards or whatever. You don't have to worry about it, think about it, clean it. There's no extra step, and it has this nozzle so that it's mess free and very sanitary. So you don't have to put it on your finger. You don't have to worry about your finger if you forgot to wash your hands or whatever, germs or anything like that. You just put it directly on your nipple. Make sure that this part is clean, but this is obviously your personal item that you're only going to use. And it's this one again. Once again, it comes in a box it also comes with a saline spray that I love, because if you are trying to keep your nipples healthy outside of getting clogged ducts, salt water can also help with just the chapping and just feeling refreshed. So it comes with like a salt water spray that you can put on right before you put this on. I don't have the salt water spray because I ran out of mine, and right now I don't really need it, but I do have the box. So this is the box, and it comes with that nipple cream that I showed you and the spray. See back here, it shows it. This is the spray, and then that's the cream. So it's a 2-in-1, and the set is called the Frida Mom Sore Nipple Set. So that's the one you would look for online if you're looking to buy it. They sell it in Target, Bye Bye Baby, and they also sell it on Amazon. The other thing that I would get is some nursing bras. This one is so beat up, you guys, because after 2 kids, but I would just get some simple nursing bras. If you see, it unlatches here, and then you have the covering, but your baby can latch. The other thing that I would get, I wouldn't really invest in nursing clothing because they're so over expensive, but I would think about the postpartum outfits I'm gonna wear and buy a few that are open here, v-neck, so they're easy, so your breasts are easily accessible for baby, obviously. Another thing I would invest in, but this is like a personal how much I'm gonna invest in it. So if you saw one of my other breastfeeding videos, I talked about how and why I don't cover when breastfeeding, and if you want to know the full story of that and more breastfeeding tips on another breastfeeding video, I'll link it up here. But even if you're not going to cover, and if you have reasons for not to cover and that's your personal choice, I would still get at least 1 or 2 breastfeeding covers. And this is my breastfeeding cover. I get the simple ones, so it's just like a little literally, it's just this, and you just put it around you. I don't get like any, there are some that are very difficult and have a lot of steps to get them on. This one is just like a tube top, so you just put it here, and then you're covered to do whatever. Now, the reason I say get a breastfeeding cover, even if you don't intend to cover, is because sometimes you're away from your baby and you need to pump, and it's just easier to pump with a cover. I personally think you don't have to pump with a cover the same way you can breastfeed freely. If that's your prerogative, you can pump freely. However, for me, I feel like pumping is a lot more revealing and just a lot more parts than breastfeeding. When you're breastfeeding, you can be discreet and your baby covers most of you anyway, so I don't feel so exposed. But pumping, you're definitely fully exposed unless you have a wearable pump. And because I choose to use the manual Haka as my pump, and it's silicone, I don't have a wearable pump, so it's very out in the open and I have to be bare chest. So that's the only drawback to the Haka, but I can just cover if I'm in public. Along with the Haka, so if you want to use the Haka as a pump like me, you want to make it a wearable pump, you can buy this chain. It's not the same as the wearable pumps they sell, the electric ones that actually fit in your bra, but it does make it wearable to a certain extent. So you take the Haka, you put it around here, the little tabs go in there, you can put it to your desired length, and then it becomes a chain, and then you can latch it onto you. And if you're breastfeeding in public and you want to cover, you can just latch it on you there, and then you would put your cover on and you'd be all covered up. Or if your baby's on you, if you're home even and you're doing one, this is called a Haka chain, so that's what they're called on their website. Use this as what I was saying earlier about collecting the milk from the other boob. You can have your baby latched on one, you can latch this on the other, and then you can use this chain, because what happens is babies, especially as they get bigger, when they breastfeed, they're sometimes a little fidgety getting comfortable and they like to kick. And then what happens is if you just wear the Haka alone, the baby will kick off the Haka and you will lose all that extra milk that you're working so hard to collect. But if you wear the chain, the way it's designed, it will just swing and the milk won't spill. It'll just swing like this and the milk won't spill, and it'll still be safe, and then you can just relatch it. So those are the two reasons that I wear my Haka with a Haka chain, to make it somewhat wearable, to make it functional, to make sure the baby can't kick it off if I'm using it to collect extra milk, and also so that if I'm pumping outside, since I use it as a primary pump, it makes it sort of a wearable pump. And I do have two Hakas since I use it as a primary pump. So if you are going to use it as a primary pump, I would get two so that you have for both breasts at the same time. And I would also get two chains. That way, when you're doing the pumping sessions, you can just do 15-minute sessions. If you get one, then like you have to do what I did with my first, which was very inconvenient for me as a first-time mom. I didn't know though. I had one Haka and I didn't have the chain yet because I didn't know about it, and I would have to do 15 minutes on one breast, 15 minutes on the other, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but as a first-time mom or as a mom in general, 30 minutes every time you want to pump is crazy when you have very little time, especially with a newborn and stuff like that. So just getting a chain, getting two Hakas, they're not expensive at all, saves you so much time. My next one is something that was recommended by both our pediatrician and my doctor. When you are breastfeeding, this is what my doctor said. I'm not a doctor, but the pediatrician also agreed. Stay on your prenatals. So whatever prenatals you were taking, these are the ones I took with both pregnancies. They have no salt. So if you have some pills, the coatings on them carry actually a lot of salt. And then if you have blood pressure issues, it could be a hidden reason why you're having blood pressure issues, because you're intaking salt you don't know you're intaking. But these have no salt in the coating. They're all natural, they're organic, and these are the ones I use with both pregnancies. So if you're breastfeeding, stay on your prenatals for as long as you're breastfeeding. Or my pediatrician, actually my daughter Eleanor had her 8-month appointment, her 8-month physical a few days ago, and she told me, yes, stay on your prenatals because you are still breastfeeding, and then stay on them 2 months after you stop breastfeeding. So that's the recommendation, because you lose a lot of nutrition when you are breastfeeding. You're giving the nutrition to your baby, so you need to boost your nutrition, or you can get vitamin deficiencies as a breastfeeding mom. So stay on your prenatals. These are the ones I use. Whichever ones you use are probably, they're fine. If you use them during pregnancy, then they're fine for postpartum. But if you want a suggestion, those are the ones I use. On the topic of vitamins, Again, this is what my pediatrician says and recommends. She says that for breastfeeding babies, both, especially exclusively breastfeeding because that's only breast milk, but even for combo fed, that the baby should be taking vitamin D. And this is the one we give our daughter. The reason for the vitamin D is that she says that if your baby isn't taking less than 20 ounces of formula, so if that's exclusively breastfeeding, they're getting no formula. Again, exclusively breastfeeding means formula only. Exclusively breastfeeding means breast milk only. And so if they're exclusively breastfeeding, they definitely need the vitamin D. But if they're combo breastfeeding, they need the vitamin D for as long as they're getting less than 20 ounces of formula. That changes depending on how old your baby is. So when she was a little tiny baby, she told us if she's getting less than 16, now it's less than 20. So check with your pediatrician, ask them about the vitamin D thing. But that's what she explained to us, because she said that breast milk it doesn't have enough vitamin D for the babies. When the baby is formula fed, they add the vitamin D to it. They add the extra vitamin D that babies need. So breast milk, although it's very beneficial and although it's very nutritious, that's one of the nutritious factors that it kind of lacks. And so in manufactured formula, they just add it, and so the baby doesn't need the extra vitamin D. But in breastfed babies, they just need a little extra vitamin D. It's not an issue. This is the one we use. It's by Infamil, and it's the Strong Bones vitamin D drops. It's childproof. You give it to them once a day, and let me open it up for you. It's liquid, and it smells really sweet, and the baby likes it. We give her 1 tube. So we fill it up all the way to the top, and then we drop it slowly, like little drops. It takes a little time because she can, we don't want her to choke on it. So it takes a few minutes to drop it in slowly, but you just drop it in on the side of their cheek, let them swallow it slowly, and it's going to make sure that they're getting the vitamin D. Also, you should be taking vitamin D along with your prenatals, just to make sure that your breast milk has as much vitamin D as possible along with their supplement of it. And the next thing is these Medela breast pump cleaning and bottle wipes. And these were a lifesaver. I didn't know about these as a first-time mom. I found out halfway through my first breastfeeding journey, but they are a lifesaver. So as I said before, one of the things is that when you are out in public with your baby, and let's say you gave them a bottle, whether that's because you're combo feeding, gave them a little bit of formula, or if you are exclusively breastfeeding but you pumped and gave them a bottle, or if you pumped in your pump and then you just need to clean your pump so that you can pump for the next feed and you're outside. Sometimes there's not a clean bathroom, or there's no bathroom, and there's no running water and nowhere to clean your pump parts or your bottle parts, and you're like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And then you feel like kind of stuck as a mom. Do I have to go home? Do I have to bring water with me? An extra thing to bring? But these are so small and good. So these are the Medela Quick Wipes, and they are hygienic wipes proven safe for cleaning pumps, shields, and accessories. And then, so they're safe for cleaning the pumps. And so I get them in a big bulk box at Bye Bye Baby. That gives me about 200, so it lasts months and months. But they come in these individual packages, so they're very easy to throw in the baby bag and carry with you. So let's say I pumped outside and I need to clean my pump. You open this, it comes with 1 individual wipe. The instructions say to clean the pump and wait at least 10 minutes before pumping again. And it's safe, it's non-toxic, and it's such an easy way to clean your pumps. So get you a box of those. And the other thing is somewhere to store your breast milk. So that's gonna depend on the person. So if you're somebody who's building a freezer stash, then obviously get yourself some of those breastfeeding freezer bags. Like I said, I'm a low supplier, so I give my baby every drop I can, but I don't have enough to also make a freezer stash. So when it comes to leaving her for a few hours, I try not to leave her for too long, but if we have to leave her with my mom or my aunt, who is our primary babysitters, I will either pump before and leave her as much breast milk as I can, and then they'll supplement with formula, or they'll just supplement with formula for the short time that I'm gone, and then I'll breastfeed her as soon as I get back. But we don't leave her for a long period. She's still very young, and so that's kind of how we do it. But if you are building a stash, yes, like I said, get the freezer bags, but also you need a place to keep your breast milk if you're gonna pump, and if you are gonna combo feed, you need a place to also make formula. So these Medela formula or breastfeeding bottles are great. Even if you don't want to get these, get something to store your milk in, whether formula or breast milk actually. Are things I don't have on hand, but I'm gonna give them honorable mention because they're very important. I would get some type of, so with breastfeeding, hydration is so important. Hydration is going to keep you healthy, it's going to keep baby healthy, and it's one of the things that's going to keep your milk supply as good as it can be and very up. But water alone is not always enough, especially in those early days when baby is feeding so much. So getting something that supplements that is so good. So getting a breastfeeding hydration supplement. My favorite is Milk Flow. They have the berry flavor, which I usually put in my water, and they have a chai tea flavor, which I make hot or cold. You can make it with water or milk. I prefer milk because I prefer it hot, like a little treat, a little tea, but it definitely gives you that boost with breastfeeding and hydration. But definitely get something. Other things you can use for breastfeeding and hydration are coconut water. Just watch your sugar intake. You can make like what is it called, infused water with ginger, cucumber, those kind of things, lemon. But my favorite like little on the go packets that you can add are the Milk Flow. I will link them and I will show you a picture, but I don't have any packets right now. The other thing I would do is lactation snacks. My favorite are, I don't remember the company, but I have these lactation cookies that are very good, or lactation teas. So those are all my main essentials. I hope this helped, and for anybody who's a first-time parent or a second-time parent, third-time parent, just trying to get the most success out of the breastfeeding journey, I hope you learned something. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, leave it in the link below. If not, I'll see you guys next week, and I hope you guys have a very successful breastfeeding journey.